is it absolutely important for me to spend, and risk my self and spend the time and the energy to figure it out? No. Do you want to know why? Because I have a husband that can do it. Okay. And I am so proud of that. Hey, sweet mama. Welcome back to another episode of Mom in Process. As always, I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthron. Thank you so much for joining me today on this Monday. I love Mondays. I feel like I tell you that every Monday episode, but I really do. And I'm so excited to bring this conversation to you. And I'm just going to preface it really quick and kind of give a disclaimer that I'm probably going to piss a lot of feminists or extreme feminists off in this episode, and that's just going to have to be okay. But one of the things I feel like is really important to dive into is this conversation surrounding us as stay-at-home moms in these more traditional roles. Now, back up a little bit. In my childhood, I was raised to be an independent girl, an independent female with the mindset of women can do anything that men can do. You know, there are these limits and capabilities with our physical differences. Men are typically stronger, not always, but typically. And I also grew up in a really small town. So I grew up trying to fit in with the guys and, do all the guy things. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that to some extent. I mean, I'm teaching my daughters to be strong, independent, capable females as well. But there has been this really interesting shift. There's been this really interesting dynamic of femininity and the idea that females should act more like males and they should have more masculine traits. And this is all the everything I'm going to talk about today is stemming from a couple of different areas. One, just an area that I've personally been exploring and diving into as I'm in this more traditional, stereotypical, barefoot in the kitchen, raising babies kind of role, which I really push back against and say, it's not the stereotype that people portray it to be, the Susie homemaker. And what's frustrating about that is I am a homemaker. We are all homemakers in our own right, but it doesn't have to be the stereotype. It doesn't have to be this label. So this is something that I've had to explore and just do some self-reflective work on within my role as I've become a full-time mom. And as I've journeyed down this, this path for the past 8 years. But lately I've also listened to, if you guys follow me on Instagram, you would have seen it posted in my stories. Ryan Mickler posted in his stories a podcast episode that he recently did. And then I shared that. It was shared with me from a friend. And then I shared it to the community because I feel like it was such a great perspective on feminism and basically debunking these myths around feminism and what it really is not. And Ryan did a great job. He runs the Order of Man. He is the founder of the Order of Man. And so this is a podcast in a community focused on rebuilding men, what it means to be a healthy masculine man. And I have so much respect for the work that he's doing. I thought it was such a great episode from a female perspective to hear what a male's perspective was. It was so empowering. And I just felt like, yes, everything he was saying, I was genuinely like, yes, you hit the nail on the head. But then from there, Brad's actually been reading a book. And I think if you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen me posted in my stories, but he's been reading Wild at Heart by John Eldredge. And I started reading it also because as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, I have my homemade bookmark marking my page in the book. And we were having these very deep conversations around this book. And it is mostly for men. It's called Wild at Heart, Discovering the Secret of a Man's Soul. However, from a parenting perspective, as well as a spouse's perspective, I think it's very interesting to read this and see what is going on with men these days and where have our masculine men gone. But what he talks about, I'm not going to dive into that aspect of it, but what he talks about in here is really resonating with me. And I want to share this with you because he talks about the roles we play as children. And as children, as female children, we all wanted to be whisked away by the prince. We all wanted to play the princess part. We all wanted to, he talks about this in the book actually, where we all want to twirl in the pretty dresses and we want to be rescued and we want to be saved, but it's not necessarily about being saved and feeling weak. It's about us wanting to be part of that adventure, that part of that action, but also be the one that they're saving and the one that they're fighting for and the one that they're going after. And so there's this biological inclination for us to play that part, even as children, without the heavy influence of Disney movies. I can hear everybody out there saying, well, that's because they watched Cinderella and that's because they watched this. But no, like genuinely, even without those influences, young girls are still playing those parts. They're still playing and leaning into this female side, this feminine aspect. And then you have the boys that are, waving their swords and charging in on a horse and they're saving the day and they want the adventure and they want the action and, they want to be dangerous and powerful. And so from there, what I was thinking, it took me down another path and it had me thinking, is it so bad for me to want to say that I need a man? Because in society right now, when we say those things, it makes us seem needy. It makes us seem dependent and it makes us seem weak. And I want to focus this entire episode without hopefully getting onto too much of a rant. I want to debunk that and just say that that's bullshit, because I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying I need a man in my life, especially at this point, and especially as mothers. There is scientific research on the importance of fathers in our children's lives, as well as scientific research on the importance of mothers in children's lives. But what I want to talk about is me personally as a female adult woman, empowering other adult women to say that it's okay for you to feel, and it's okay for you to say, I need a man and I want a man in my life. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to give a little example here from like real world Amy and Brad life, something that we are recently going through. Again, if you saw my Instagram stories, you saw that I posted that we were going to do a weekend project of spreading rock in our flower beds. And I want to break this example of a project that we're doing down a little bit. Okay. So you have my feminine side, you have my softer version, that's softer part of the collaboration of us working together, where I say, it's important to me for us to have a comfortable, welcoming, clean, nice looking home. So I had this vision for adding the rock to the flower bed because to be honest, we have a problem with the cats pooping in it and chickens in it. So the rock is supposed to help with that. But here I am, the visionary, the creator, the homemaker, wants to improve our nest and make it cozy and inviting and welcoming for ourselves and our kids and others, a place for people to land. And that's that feminine side of me. That's the softer side. That's the aspect that I, as a female, can bring to the table. Now, the flip side of that is I can envision that all day. Okay. I can say, oh, I want rock here and I want to put a boulder here and I want to do these things. I physically am not capable of actually doing that. And it doesn't make me weak to say that. It does not make me a weak person to say that I am physically not capable of doing that. And I'm not capable of doing it for a couple of reasons. Okay. In order to get the rock here, Brad had to haul a big dump trailer. Okay. He had to haul the dump trailer, back it up, hook it up, all those things to haul the rock to a place, or to haul the trailer, to the place where we purchased the rock. And then he had to haul it up our very steep grade and up our very steep county road. And I have never done those things. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. There are tons of women, by the way, that could back a pickup up better than most men. There are tons of women that would be very, very capable of doing this. I'm just talking about me and my perspective and what my capabilities are. All women, all men have their own capabilities and their own limitations within that. So me knowing, for me personally, I don't know how to do those things. I don't. And someday, will I learn how to do that? Possibly. Right now, at this point in my life, there are things that are more important and things that I'm more interested in learning about than that. And the reason why is because I can rely on Brad. I can rely on him for those things. And I am 100% okay with that for a couple of reasons, which I'll dive into in a minute. But he got the trailer, loaded up the rock, brought it up the grade, and we're going to work on moving that rock. Now, I can move rock. Okay. Now I can shovel it. I can do some of the heavy lifting. I can do a lot of the other physical labor, and I am not afraid of physical labor. I can do that. And that's the part of me that comes in and says, I am not weak. I am capable with limitations. Okay. I have limitations. Can I physically move an entire huge wheelbarrow full load of rock? Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see, but I'm willing to try. And if I'm not able to do it, if I'm physically not able to do it, you know what? I have an incredible husband who will help me with it. And I'm fucking proud of that. I am proud of the fact that he is willing to help me. I'm willing to help him. And we work together as a team to get things done. We work together as a team to raise our family. And something as granular and small as a yard project, we are working together on that within our capabilities and within our limitations. So yeah, I will definitely try and move a wheelbarrow full of rock. The other thing that he had to bring home the next day is a skid steer. I have no clue how to run a skid steer, no clue. And that is just one of those things that could be very, very dangerous if I tried to do that by myself. Hauling a skid steer, getting it off the trailer, trying to figure out how to run it, like that would be dangerous. Would it be possible? Probably. Is it absolutely important for me to spend, and risk my self and spend the time and the energy to figure it out? No. Do you want to know why? Because I have a husband that can do it. Okay. And I am so proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that he is not afraid of manual labor. I'm proud of the fact that he can run heavy equipment. I'm proud of the fact that he's running a marathon so he has endurance to take care of his family. I'm proud of the fact that he takes care of his body so that he's ready to take care of his family. These are all things that I want in a man. I want to be that princess that's taken care of, but also can take care of her prince. And there is nothing wrong with that. And that doesn't make me weak. That doesn't make me dependent. I mean, he will be the first to tell you that I am one of the first women that's like, well, if you can do that, I can do that. If you can do that, I can do that. And the point is that I will try. Okay. There's nothing weak about this need and this desire and this want to have a man in your life. And society keeps telling us as women that we don't need men. We don't need men. We can do this all ourselves, but it's fucking wrong. It's wrong because there are times literally in my day that I need Brad. I need him to do things, to help me with things, to support me with things. I need him I need him emotionally. I need him physically. I need a man to have my babies. Okay. And I know we can go into the science of the fact that you don't need a man to have your babies and all these things, but I'm talking from just a general perspective. You need men to have children. Okay. This is not something we can do on our own. Even if you had children with science, okay, there's still a man involved, an invisible man, maybe a man that you've never met, but there is still a man involved. You still need men. And I have no problems saying and admitting and shouting out to the world that I need a man in my life. And I love having a man in my life. I love having a partner. I take a lot of pride in the fact that, I kissed a lot of frogs, if we want to go back to the fairy tale. I don't take pride in the fact that I kissed a lot of frogs because I made a lot of mistakes, but I am very proud of the fact that I found him. I found him and he is in my life and he chose me and I chose him and we came together and we've built a family and we've built a life together. And that is something I am so proud of. I'm passionately proud of. And so when I hear this in society and when I hear this, we don't need a man thing, it pisses me off. It really freaking pisses me off because I'm over here saying, you know what? I fight every day to have a beautiful marriage. I work hard. We work hard together to improve communication, have conversations, love each other, be around each other. There's struggles, there's tears, there's anger in marriage. And we love each other enough and we appreciate each other enough and we see the value in each other enough that we fight for that marriage. We continue to work on that marriage and work on each other because he loves having a wife. That doesn't make him weak at all. I love having a husband. That doesn't make me weak. That doesn't make me dependent by any means. So another example of just exactly what's going on in this idea that we need each other. We were having this conversation of the project and we were just talking about the different steps that we need to take and laying down the weed barrier. And, he's going to take the skid steer and he was just going to scoop it up and dump it on. So he was just asking me some questions and he said, well, what about that foliage out there? I don't know what you want me to do with that foliage. And I was laughing. I'm like, do you mean foliage? Are you trying to say the word foliage? He's like, yeah, the foliage. I'm like, there's no eage there. It's foliage, the shrubs and all of the stuff that I have in the flower bed. It's foliage. So then we were getting a kick out of it. So I was just laughing. That he was kind of lacking in this green thumb. And then he was teasing, oh, I have a green thumb. I know what I'm talking about. And hey, sweet mama, I had to pause this conversation for a brief moment and let you in on a super exciting puzzle piece that we have almost in place. We have the Mom in Process blog coming soon. And I'm so excited to finally make this announcement because this is an aspect of the community that I've been working on. This is an aspect of the community that I have dreamed about and been wanting to put out there and share with you guys. So it is coming very, very soon. It is official. It's going to happen. So stay tuned for this next piece of content. We will make sure to share it with you guys as soon as it's out and as soon as it's available. We will continue to put blog posts up and to notify you when these blog posts get posted. This is an opportunity for us to take the conversations a step further, to expand the conversation in the written word, not just in the podcast, an opportunity to share these articles with each other, share these articles with other mamas, and expand this community even further. So with that being said, with the big announcement being said, oh my goodness, I'm just so excited that we're even talking about it. With that being said, like I told you, we will be sure to notify you when it is officially posted, up and ready and live. So let's get back to the show. So we were just getting a kick out of it because he does not have a green thumb and he relies on me for a lot of that. And he asks questions and he tries to learn, but I'm much more knowledgeable than he is. So then we were talking about our next steps and laying the rock down. And I said, Well, when you go get the excavator and you scoop it up and you dump it into, dump it on there, you're going to wreck all of my foliage, teasing him, you're going to wreck all of my foliage, and all of the foliage is going to just get squished. So you need to take the excavator, and my suggestion would be to dump it into the wheelbarrow. And then you take the wheelbarrow and put that into the flower bed. And so he was laughing because I was calling it an excavator. And he was like, okay, first of all, it's not a dirt mover or a dirt digger. He was like, it's called a skid steer. And I was like, oh, well, whatever, that piece of equipment out there, that machine, what's wrong with calling it an excavator, and then we were laughing because that's the exact conversation that I want to have here. It's like, it was the perfect example of the fact that here I am, he needs me for this. Here he is, he needs me for this. And here I am, I need him for this. And we're both wrong about the other thing. And so we're both correcting each other, and we come together and we both learn something. So it's just the perfect example. I don't know heavy equipment. I don't know all of the terms. I don't know how to run it. I don't know anything about it. I probably know a little bit more than some women just because that's what Brad does. But I didn't even have the excavator versus the skid steer conversation correct. I had it totally wrong. And I don't care. Like, whatever you call that thing out there that's going to move the rock from point A to point B, just don't do it into the flower bed because you're going to break my foliage. And so we were just getting a kick out of that and laughing because it's the perfect example of how we balance each other out. It's the perfect example of how we come together and we learn from these conversations that we have from each other. And I have a lot of pride in that partnership. I have a lot of pride in those roles that we have. And they are slightly more traditional in a sense, if you want to consider them that, because he goes to work. And he finds a lot of value in providing for his family in that way. And while he's at work, I'm raising our children. I'm taking care of the home. I'm cooking food. I'm making sure, everything here at the home, on the home front in our nest, is taken care of. And I take a lot of pride in that aspect of it. So we each have our roles that we each empower each other to do our best work in. Now, there are times when we both help each other out and those roles kind of cross. And again, that is one of the aspects that I love about our marriage. That is one of the biggest aspects that I love about having him in my life, is that I can count on him. I can lean on him. I can trust him, and all of these beautiful things that create a partnership and a life together. These are all things that I admire and I'm so proud of for us. And I let him, I don't want to say let in a sense that like, I say yes and he does it, or I don't want to say I let him do it because I give him permission to, but I let him embrace this masculine side of himself so that he can fill that internal cup that he needs to fill, that makes him feel good about taking care of his family and about taking care of me and doing those things that are sort of more traditional for that masculine role, because it makes him feel good. It empowers him. And it's another conversation, and it's another aspect of our marriage that we're really having a lot more discussions around and a lot more conversations about. And this book dives into even more of those conversations about empowering men. And I'm not going to get into that conversation today, but those are things that Brad and I are working on, because I do think that there is a need for it in society where we're losing these masculine men. And so giving him the power and giving him the opportunity, maybe is a better word, for giving him the opportunity to lean into these roles as the masculine man, as the provider of our home. Now, I have to really check myself sometimes, because with my personality, I tend to come in and take over, or tell him he's, this isn't getting done right, or I don't like this, or be critical or whatever. And that comes naturally for me with my independent mentality and with my maybe type A personality. And also because I'm home all the time. So I try to keep everything kind of in my control here at the house. So it takes effort, releasing that control, letting him lean into that provider, that protector aspect of being a masculine man. And it does, like I said, it takes effort and intentionality on my part to take a step back, pump the brakes and say, okay, no, this is good for him. This is good for me. I want to be able to trust him. I want to be able to lean into him. And I can't do those things if I'm never giving him the opportunity to try, if I'm never giving him the opportunity to be the provider, to be the protector. Then when I say, or women say, we want a masculine man, we want to be swept away, we want the adventure. Well, how are you supposed to have the adventure if you're never letting them do those things? How are you supposed to have a man that you feel like could protect you and take care of you and your family if something were to happen, if you never give him the opportunity or allow him, I'm putting this in quotes, allow him to find time to go do a workout? If you're like, no, you're home now, I need you home all the time, then he's never going to have this opportunity to go pursue some of those things that really make him that masculine man. And the whole idea of that is something that Brad and I, like I said, we're really leaning into, because I want a man. I need a man in my life. And in order for me to have that man, to have that support, to have that confidence in him and our relationship, and as the provider for our family, I have to give him opportunities to do that. Now, I will say that doesn't mean that he's gone every weekend doing things that fill his cup in that way. That doesn't mean he's spending every single evening doing workouts at CrossFit, or, my point is that we find the balance in that. So if he needs to do those things, or he wants to do those things to work on his body, fill his cup in that like masculine way, we find a balance in doing that. And that balance for us looks like him getting up early in the morning. And it's early, you guys. Okay. It's a commitment. He gets up at 4:30 most days in order to do things that fill him up. He's training for a marathon right now. So for us, there are times when it feels like we are out of balance, but you know what? I'm embracing that for him. I'm wanting him to meet this challenge. I'm wanting him to take this head on and say, I've done this, I've built up the endurance. I've done something challenging. And that means on a Saturday, he's gone until about noon. But is it that way every single weekend for the rest of our lives? No, this is a short period of time. We've talked about it. We understand it, because I want him to be the man that he wants to be for himself, for me, for my family, for our family. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. Finding that balance is important. Otherwise, it does start to build that resentment. You start to become resentful when they're gone all the time. I completely understand that. And it's taken communication on our part. It's taken understanding. It's taken grace. It's taken trial and error. We've tried things, they haven't worked. We've tried other things and they haven't worked. And we just keep pivoting and communicating and pivoting and communicating to seeing what works best for our family. Now, what works best for my family isn't going to be the same as what works best for your family. And the things that I need help with in my household, for me, are going to be different than the things that you need help with in your household for you. What you're capable of versus what I'm capable of, what my limits are versus what your limits are, they're different. And that's okay. That's why I'm not trying to say your life should look like my life, or your husband should do the things that my husband is doing, or you should expect the same things of him, or have the exact same expectations. It's not that way at all. But what I am saying is that it is okay to rely on your husband. And I empower you to rely on your husband. I empower you to empower them to rely on each other, for you two to work together. It is okay for you to say, I need my husband. It is okay for you to ask for help. In a society that's telling us we don't need a man, I'm over here telling you it's okay if you feel like you do, because all of us, especially as stay-at-home moms, we do rely on our husbands. We do rely on our partners. I rely on Brad 100% for our financial stability. 100%. And he has a lot of pride in that. And I trust him with that. And for a lot of women, there is fear around that. And I completely understand that fear because, if you've listened to the podcast in the past, that I come from a career focused mentality. Okay. I had my own money. I had my own job from the time that I was like 11, 12 years old. I always had a job. I was always babysitting. I was always cleaning. I was always working in daycare, lifeguarding, doing bookkeeping. And then from there, I worked my way up. I did, all of the things in my life were cultivating myself and my mind for a career so that I didn't ever rely on a man. And here I am as a very traditional, I don't want to say very traditional, but in a traditional stay-at-home mom role where I do rely on him. And I am so proud of that. I'm so proud that I found a man, I found a partner that I can rely on, that I can trust, that we can build a life together, and he helps take care of me. Okay. But I help take care of him. So he's at work, he's working to provide for our family, and I'm home. Yep. Baking bread. Seriously. I mean, if you want to get in a traditional conversation there, he's working and I'm baking him sugar-free bread that fuels him for his marathons. Okay. Because the bread helps him have a little bite before he gets on his training routes. And I take a lot of pride in that. And he relies on me for that. I rely on him. He relies on me. We come together in a cohesive environment. Now, that's not to say we don't have our own shit. And that's not to say everything is, hearts and flowers and rainbows. Of course we get mad at each other. Of course we get frustrated at each other. Of course we argue and fight and have differences of opinions. But you know what? That every great love story has that. Every great love story has its trials and tribulations. They have their anger, they have their passion, and that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes you grow, and that's what makes you respect one another. You just have to have that open communication and those open dialogues. But I want you to feel empowered by this conversation. And I really want to debunk this idea that we can't ever say that we need to rely on a man, or, that having a man in your life or needing a man in your life is a bad thing, because it's genuinely not. It's one of the best things that you can do for your children. It's one of the beautiful aspects of being a woman. It's one of the beautiful aspects of a life. And, it is one of my favorite things about the life that we are building is how both of us rely on each other. And so if you're married, if you're in a partnership with with your spouse, I just want you to know that it is okay for you to need them, to want to need them, and to rely on them. Let's debunk this idea. Let's squash this idea that it's not okay to say those things. Let's squash that idea that it's not okay to empower them to be the masculine man that they need to be. So let me know if you have any questions about this. Let me know if you have a difference of an opinion. I would love to open this up for a conversation. So you can always head over to our Facebook group. We have a private Facebook group where we continue the conversations around topics in the podcast. So I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think about this conversation. As always, thank you so much for listening today, sweet mama. I look forward to talking to you all again very soon.